o'clock now. The first item on the work session agenda are board appointments and reappointments. Mr. Robert Hollingsworth to the Transit Advisory Board and Mr. Willie Duncan to the McClellan Development Authority. Those are on our agenda today, on the consent agenda. Any issues or comments as to item 1? Okay, let's move on then to item 2. Public nuisances, grass, debris, and vehicles. Tana, you got anything for us there other than what's in Dropbox?
No,
Okay. Any questions or issues then as to item 2? Item 3 will be alcohol license. I think it's on it is on the consent agenda as well. Any issue as to item 3?
That's a question. So that's for, my understanding, that's for a specific, especially there for that specific day, correct?
Yes, sir, correct. And only for that day. Okay, any other issues with respect to item 4? Excuse me, item 3. Okay, item 4 is the comprehensive plan. We discussed this at our last work session. This has to do with recommendations for the plan and supporting documents. As Toby and Ann Wells talked about last week, the Planning Commission and the subcommittee, specifically the Planning Commission, has done a really good job as far as going through respective vendors. And so, Mr. Folkestone, with that, I'll go ahead and just turn that over to you then.
Yes, sir. This is a properly vetted, and our recommendation is to the Walker Collaborative Group out of Nashville, Tennessee. And of course, you see the amount in there, the amount is in there. We do have the $150,000 allocated for that. Also, there's also broken down the plan in which they're going to put it in place. I think it's a good group, and I think we did a good process in getting here. Once it's been approved, I think we'll bring back for approval at the next council meeting and then in March. They actually gonna hit the ground and start working.
Very good. Any questions or comments then as to the comprehensive plan?
It says the city tour will be led by city representatives. Have we identified who those city representatives will be? Are we talking about the departments?
No, this is gonna be city online, the staff will be in to assist, but this is gonna be, we're talking about bringing in the group. So we want to expound a little more.
Yeah, and if I understand your question, Councilor Smith, is that there will be a stakeholder group that will be structured, and there will be representative of the city, and also, as Mr. Fox indicated, city staff, and there will be intermittent engagement updates to be provided to the council, because comprehensive plan, even more so than the strategic plan of 2014 or 2015, is be more imperative to keep you up to date on a regular basis of how that's flowing. So that answers your question.
And even so, as we get to the main thing at the end of this comprehensive plan, we're going to talk about how we want to actually implement this plan as well. I think that's one thing that we would, on the strategic plan, that we did not come back with the implementation process. We let people know what we're going to do with this comprehensive plan. We want to talk about implementation and how we're going to do it also as we talk about it.
Right, and then also, Mr. Fulton, is that I asked the group last week when we met to basically use Jackson to help when it's time to make notifications, to give us a timeline, because too often we do things and people don't see a timeline and they automatically assume nothing is being done. So I asked them if they wouldn't mind if they would use Jackson, if we could use Jackson as well to keep everybody informed and on the same page.
Yes, sir.
Any other issues as to item 4? So we'll address this on the voting agenda, ideally next month.
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good.
So we're right on time and our timeline.
Excellent. Okay, the last item on this agenda, and we want to talk about something right after this, will be amending the Main Street Board. What appears in Dropbox is an ordinance passed in 2016 with respect to Main Street.
Yes,
Ms. Folks, I'll just turn it over to you then as far as.
Yes, the council, what we're respectfully asking is that we just we look at how we are appointing our members to our Main Street Board, keeping in mind our Main Street Coordinator, Director who just left, was having some problems, but as well, we'll keep in mind we're part of Main Street, Alabama, and we have some protocols that we need to follow. So we're actually going to put Jackson Hodges in place as the new Main Street Director. He's going to be in place, but we're also going to have to give him some help to help with the EOI committees, commitments as well. But what we're needing to do is the appointment of these board members. We're asking that we go to a 9-person appointment of board members, and that the mayor has one, Ward 2 has, Ward 1 has 2 appointees, Ward 2, in each council member has 2 appointees as well. That gives us 9 board members. And we're not going to keep, just not remember the ones already serving. Jackson has already met with them. And if they have a desire to serve, to continue still, we'll reach out to the council and let you know of that. But right now, that's been sort of a sticking point. If you look at all the different appointments that were allowed on that, it just made no sense. And we just want to get it to a point where it's a functional board and they can actually move forward and start doing some other things with Main Street. That's what we're asking.
I would just say, we created the current configuration of the board, the creation of it, what the idea behind it was to get the various stakeholders in place for the different entities so that the right hand did what the left hand was doing, so we were all working and pulling the rope in the same direction. That was the reason we had members from Planning Commission, Downtown Development Authority, and Spirit, and all the different entities that have a role and an impact on how downtown can develop, so that we're all working together. That was the concept behind it, and the reason that we came up with that is because the configuration you're presenting to us right now wasn't working. People weren't showing up then either. Now, we thought that this would change things and we would kind of get a better kind of participation. Unfortunately, that's not been the case. I say all that not to say that I disagree with changing it back, because I don't. I say that to all of us to be very, very thoughtful in who we place on that board. Think about, when you're thinking about people that you want to put on that board, I would hope that we will all think about people that have a stake in the positive development of our downtown. Because then I think you will get better interest. I'm glad to hear Jackson will be taking on that role, because I love his enthusiasm and I love the way he approaches everything that he gets his hands in. He just attacks full speed, and that's a very good positive thing for us. I like the idea of having some youth involved in this too, and I think that we need to keep some of that youth involvement in this body. So I'm saying all that, I guess, to say that I'm going to be very careful in who I place on there, and I encourage all of us to think in those pathways.
Great. So my only interjection is, if we're going to try to keep the youth involved, because so most of the stuff I say, I'm going to go over to my big sister to make sure I don't get hit. A lot of the boards that we're coming across with the meeting time, if the meeting time could be set at sometimes after normal operating hours, or even if we have to try to do something on the weekend. I know that sometimes is inconvenient, but I think if we could not have the 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 2:30 meetings, I think that'll increase our pool of people we can pull from to get input from. So if we want, especially if we want to stay young, because hopefully most of the younger generations have at least a 9 to 5 or something to something. So that's what just my suggestion.
Well, I was actually on the Main Street Board when I was in high school, and that ended in 2018. But our meetings were closer to the evenings. The meetings were actually closer to the evenings, and so I understand how important this board really is. I have a question, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. The part that we are amending as far as the voting members, we're making it from 11 to 9, correct? And for the appointments, the mayor and the city manager
have one appointment, and each council member will have two, a total of 9.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, echoing back to what Dee Dee just said and your experience and understanding of the value of that, if you look at communities that have successful downtowns, they have a significant millennial engagement in their downtown. And that's what if we want our town to thrive, you've got to reach to that. That may not be where the money is in your community, but that is where the vision for the growth of your community is, and we got to figure out a way to marry those two pieces. And so I think you're right. We've got to find meeting times that make really good sense for the consensus group, and I know Jackson will do that. I don't really think that's necessarily our body here, other than making it known, and I think that that's important.
Yes.
I need to reread our ordinance as far as board appointees. The last time I did read it, unless something changed, is one has to be a resident of the city of Anniston to be appointed. And I am thinking that Main Street, what if one has a business downtown? They have a vested interest in the city, but yet they may not be a resident. What do you all think about allowing some flexibility if you own a business or whatever to be appointed to that board, or should it still be just excluded just to the residents of the city? What are your thoughts on that?
Truthfully speaking, I think it really depends on the board. I think when we're talking about Main Street, we're talking about Noble Street and West 15. Talking about businesses and activity and different stuff like that. Not necessarily like residential services or anything like that, but I think it's solely dependent on the board and if that person has a vested interest into this community. I do have some boards that I need to appoint to soon, so I'm seeking out those who have a vested interest and who live inside this, Anniston city limits, or may have a business within the city, So I think it's just, from my point of view, maybe dependent on what board it is.
I'm thinking Main Street the person wouldn't necessarily have to live in Anniston, but they would have to have a vested interest in downtown. In other words, they wouldn't have to own a business or something to that effect. I think about couches, and yes, they live in Anniston, but the next door, that little dress shop that's done extremely well, she takes a huge interest in the city of Anniston, but I'm pretty sure she does not live in the city limits. And so there are situations like that. I think we need to have some flexibility, at least on the Main Street board. That's my opinion.
I'm pretty sure that one of the ordinances passed by the 2012 council that addressed board composition, I think there is a provision in there where if there's a reasonable nexus in the person of the citizen of the city. Yeah, I think that under the current structure, I think we can do that.
I think you're correct.
That was pretty good. I got a member that
Right.
was going to live in Jacksonville.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Oh, okay, then I'm mistaken, thank you.
Well, so I guess to Millie's point, to every yin there's a yang, because I would say on the east side, on the west side of town, a lot of people would be kind of hesitant to have non-residents because there's so many businesses that are in West Anniston that they come, they do business, and they go home. I understand wanting the business to thrive. I think you may want to vet these people to make sure that not only do they have their business in the best interest for their business, but the best interest in overall development of the Main Street project. Because, some people look at it as if, none of the business owners in West Anniston actually live in Anniston or live in West Anniston. So it kind of split hairs, if we could just fine tune that and figure out, kind of vet it a little bit, because just say the lady with the dress shop may not be an issue, but someone may want to put something somewhere and they're only strictly looking out for pure profit and not the overall scheme.
Any other discussion as to item 5?
I'd just like to say, Council Questions, we do have a plan to actually rev up on Main Street, development of Main Street, and that's include the West 15th as well. I'm gonna bring something in the next couple of weeks more about consultants and other things that we can actually do. We've already talked to people that can help us move this, because I think in some ways we've been looking at it in a macro concept instead of a macro concept, and get some other eyes on this and give us some guidance on how we're gonna up in some other best practices, not just trying to be like someone else, but best practice so we can be the best Anniston we can be. Because I think we've lied on that Main Street a long time, and I think we got some help now with Jackson's energy, some young people energy, where we can move it forward. And that's why I think this board, everything you all saying is spot on, but I think we've dabbled around too long, and I think we need to move a little faster. So that's what we're trying to do.
All right. Okay, I'm going to pass out a memo that we got from Public Health. We're going to go over 2 quick things real fast before we begin our voting agenda. This is from Public Health, and it's simply an agreement wherein the city can receive certain information with respect to COVID-19 so that we can make, more informed public policy decisions. It would suggest, I think, that Myra would be the clearinghouse as far as who this information would be directed to. This is an agreement I would have to sign, but I just wanted to run it by y'all first. One, to make sure that y'all agree with me that we should do this, and I essentially wanted to get y'all's consent before signing the agreement. But it's pretty standard agreement, not subject to negotiation. Pretty basic. They basically just give us information, and we promise not to do things with it that we shouldn't. Y'all okay with me signing that?
So it gives us general information without violating.
That's without HIPAA, violating.
Okay, I'm coming.
Well, it also limits our disclosure of the information that we receive, as it should. Y'all okay with me signing that? Okay. The other thing I want to talk about real quick, like Ciara and I talked yesterday about the homeless issue. This is something that we dealt with, 18 months ago. And we really need to focus energy back on this, given the weather situation we're going through right now, other issues. I do think that just like with having a standalone work session like we did on CDBG, I think it would be beneficial for us to have a standalone work session on the homeless issue, such that we're not just addressing temporary housing, like sheltering type housing. I think we need to look at the global issue. Fair housing in general, from a shelter to transitional housing with an eye toward hopefully these folks owning their own homes. There are a lot of folks in Anniston who are homeless now. They're not necessarily from Anniston. Anniston is the legal, financial, and medical hub for a 5-county area. It's also the social services hub. And so, we have folks from outside Anniston, really outside the county, even outside Calhoun County, who come here for services. This is clearly an issue that we need to work on, expend some energy on, and we're going to have to spend some money on it. But it's also, I think, important for us to identify and foster relationships with those who we can partner with on this issue. This is not something we can tackle on our own. We need help. And we need to do a good job of convincing who our peer partners may be as to why they need the help and why this would also be beneficial to their political jurisdictions as well. So I'm going to turn it over to Ciara at this point because we talked about that yesterday. But that's going to be my suggestion, that we really have a standalone work session as to this issue, and maybe even a series of work sessions. But at our first work session, really talk about partners that we can approach to help with this issue. Ciara?
I really share those same sentiments. You pretty much said everything that I would have said. This is not just an Anniston issue. This is really a county issue, and I think that with the partnerships process that we are set in place, I think that we can come up with a viable solution to really tackle this issue that has been going on for quite so long. So that's just really my take on it, and I hope that we are going to be super proactive in seeing that through within the next coming months. And
Yeah, so big issues sparked this week, and I was in battle with some tit for tat on Facebook. And I think a lot of it happens because, you know, let's face it, the city of Anniston has not had a great showing in the media in the years past. We're trying to revamp that image. We're trying to be as open as we can and share everything that we can to be transparent. But the issue sparked this week because TV 42 put out that Anniston had no warming shelters. Well, I think TV 42 has been around for long enough that you know, I really feel all of the media outlets should have known we were partnering with rightness. I mean, we put it out there, and yes, it's a problem. It's a global problem. It's not an Anniston problem. It's a problem that goes so deep. But I think if we could try to just make the media outlets understand, if you're going to put something out there, I mean, because this sparked unnecessary debates about this and that, whatever. We're in the middle of a pandemic. We made a decision. I stand by the decision we made. We'll always stand by that decision. But sometimes the way they word things in the media gets us a black eye. And yes, we need to do. There's some things we need to do. But there's help we need from a multitude of organizations in order to be able to, in a way, rectify this problem. And at the end of the day, when we feel we put forth our best effort through these work sessions and everything, we're going to have to just take a pill and understand some people are where they want to be in life. We can't make everybody do what we want them to do. So I think we're going into it, we just have to look at it that way. Let's do what we can. But I think I think the Anniston Star has been great, at least for the last 2-3 months. And I haven't given them any bulletin board information yet. But I think just making a statement that Anniston has no warming shelters, although we had tried to correct the problem to help the overall health of the community, I don't think that was a fair shot from TV 42.
So I think moving on from here, you know, that we make sure that we do that work session, so we focus on our homelessness issue and maybe even focus on a series, but I also request that we maybe set up a meeting with our county commissioners and possibly reach out to other municipalities and see where we can go from here.
Very good.
I would ask that, I agree with the work session, I agree with everything that's being said here. I think we have a number of nonprofit entities within our community that work to help address the homeless situation. We have some great entities there. We have a few that kind of take it to another level, and I'm thinking Right Place, I'm thinking Interfaith Ministries, I'm thinking United Way. There are some groups that are taking it a step further than others, and I think it gets kind of too many cooks can spoil the soup, but I think it's important to get that those entities that are dealing with our homeless population on a day-to-day basis to be in the room when we have this work session discussion so that we get the perspective that they see every time they interact with our homeless population, so that we have, I think it just makes us smarter in how we address the situation, and I think we got to rely on that. I don't think it's a benefit to bring 20 different entities in here because everybody addresses it a little differently, but I do think that at least those three, and there may be somebody else out there that somebody says, hey, is really important too, but I know those three and their interactions on a daily basis are significant in how we deal
this is not about the organization, that just, people that actually got a vested interest, that actually know how to reach out to these. We need to have those people at the table. It's correct, but we already do that, and that's what the company needs to understand. We're working together because this is a problem that's larger than just the city. This is a global problem, as we say, and that's what, so we're working with that, and I think right now we're making sure that people are here when we have that discussion. The only other thing, sir, is the return of comments for inclusion in the aggression league pickup from the council. Any comments you may have, please get back to us. So the next session we'll have something in that ready for you, a draft that you can look at. So we just need to just get those things back to us sometime this week if that's possible, and we'll make sure. And also, I would tentatively like now looking at not the next work session, but the work session after that is have this for the homelessness conversation as a standalone, and I'll get you the dates to you.
Thank you.
All right, let's end the adjournment until 12:30.